Because we took what I would consider to be the harder path of building our own manufacturing capacity in-house, it allowed us to make our product in much smaller numbers, especially in the early days. And as we were selling them to our initial customers, to very carefully listen to their thoughts, their feedback, their criticisms, and address that on the manufacturing end very quickly. So our pace of iteration, our pace of refinement, especially in the first couple of years, was very, very fast. It was not uncommon that we were making small incremental changes to our product on a weekly basis. And sometimes even there would be small daily improvements just to the manufacturing, or, oh, hey, if we did it this way versus that way, it might be better. That allowed us to, I think, jump forward at a much faster pace than a traditional company that needs to have a minimum order quantity through a contract manufacturer to get decent pricing. Well, then you have to sell through all that inventory, even though there's a lot of room for improvement.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
What do you do to create the right mindset for your employees to improve? Well, today we talk about the mindset for improvement. Our special guest is George Breiwa, and he is the founder of DynaVap. It's a really kind of innovative, smokeless way to consume your herbs, whatever herbs you may like. But we talk about a little bit of the technology and the innovation going on there. But what we really shine a light on is how do we have this mindset of innovation across an organization? And one of the examples he gave us is their product is a physical product, and it's not normally have the kind of ability to change from week to week. But the way they were using 3D printers and approaching innovation, they were not only changing week to week, sometimes day to day, and all of that is unpacked inside this episode. Now, my hope is that you are tuning in because you want to be the best leader you can be. Now, if you think about leadership, I want you to think about this one thing. What does it take for you to truly become a powerful leader? And what will it take for your employees, managers new to leading, to be powerful leaders as well? Well, it takes some specific training and development around that area. That's the reason why we created something called Leadership On-Ramp. I'd love to share more with you about it, but all you have to do is go to genehammett.com and you can schedule a call. We can get a chat going about what's going on in your business and see if this is a fit for you. I'll lay out a roadmap for you and really help you figure out where the gaps are and what the timing should be inside your company. Now may not be the time. You may already know that, but I'd love to connect with you anyway. But it may be really important for you as we open up this to the public. This is something we've been playing in the background of our business for the last 3 years, and it hasn't been available to others, but now it is. So if you're game for that conversation, just go to genehammett.com and schedule a call. Now, here's the interview with George. George, how are you?
Doing fantastic, Gene. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, it's exciting to have you here. I'd love to just really start with this. Tell us a little bit about your company, DynaVap.
So DynaVap is a company focused on one key thing. Our mission is to make smoking history. And what I mean by that is to provide people that traditionally or historically have utilized smoking as a means of consuming whatever product it might be, with an alternative to consume similar products, if not the same product, in a more respectful fashion that might be a little bit more pleasant for them and the people around them.
Well, I'm not a big fan of smoking either, so I can definitely understand your mission. I want to ask you one kind of just interesting question. I know that I saw the other day in the news that there might be some federal, really kind of acknowledgement of the whole, cannabis industry. Do you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on there?
Actually, it's some of the only news that I pay close attention to is what's going on in the cannabis industry, because in general, most of it's positive. And that's kind of nice and uplifting. So it was the U.S. Congress passed the MORE Act and sent it off to the Senate. Hopefully, they'll actually take a good look at it and make some moves in kind of following the will of the people, not just in this country, but kind of setting the example for the world. In the regard that I think, not just in my opinion, but in many other people's opinion, the fact that cannabis has been made illegal and out of reach for many, many people, it's not quite nice. And seeing some motion in a positive direction, it's really uplifting to see.
Well, I kind of hope it goes that way too, because I think it has a lot of benefits. that people just, if they're open to it, they're able to see it. If they're closed, they probably will never see it. But I really would love to just dive into you a little bit about what's going on in your company and how you have been able to harness the success. I was looking at my notes. You guys were 1,084 in 2021, but you also had a breakout year in 2020, number 182 on the Inc. list. You probably didn't set out to grow like this, but what have been some of the challenges you've had to overcome with this kind of growth?
So some of our biggest challenges to overcome was actually building the structure of the company, because we took a little bit of an unusual route in the regard that instead of just trying to set out and bring a product to market, an idea, whatever it might be, because I think many people, many companies try to do that. And I think startups, those products tend to be made in factories, many of them overseas. And so the company really ends up becoming an administration company, administering the structure for contract manufacturing and customer service. In our situation, we decided to go the alternative route of building all of the manufacturing in-house so that we'd have very tight control over it. And it also allowed us to iterate our product much, much faster.
Awesome. You've been talking about innovation, and maybe we have to go back to exactly what this product is, because you just explained to me before we hit the recorder on about how you're doing this without flame. Give us a little context around that, and then we can talk about innovation in your company.
Sure. So our main product as a company is what we refer to as a VAP cap or a thermal extraction device. This is a device that allows you to effectively extract all of the active compounds out of a broad range of botanicals, including cannabis, but many, many other plants, roots, flowers, whatever it might be, without the need for lighting them on fire. It does this by utilizing what we refer to as our temperature indicating cap. It's this tiny little thing that fits on our device. And when the end of this device is heated to the appropriate temperature for extraction, the cap will click. And we can attach videos or other things like that to kind of show demonstrations how it works. This device allows, again, people to consume products that would traditionally be smoked without the need for lighting them on fire and creating all of the smoke that's harsh for them and for the people around them.
So now that we got an idea of the product, one of the things that you said has been successful is creating a mindset for improvement and innovation. What exactly is that?
So what it is because we took what I would consider to be the harder path of building our own manufacturing capacity in-house. It allowed us to make our product in much smaller numbers, especially in the early days. And as we were selling them to our initial customers, to very carefully listen to their thoughts, their feedback, their criticisms, and address that on the manufacturing end very quickly. So our pace of iteration, our pace of refinement, especially in the first couple of years, was very, very fast. It was not uncommon that we were making small incremental changes to our product on a weekly basis. And sometimes even there would be small daily improvements just to the manufacturing, or, hey, if we did it this way versus that way, it might be better. That allowed us to, I think, jump forward at a much faster pace than a traditional company that needs to have a minimum order quantity through a contract manufacturer to get decent pricing. Well, then you have to sell through all that inventory, even though there's a lot of room for improvement.
It's really interesting because I've seen a lot of my clients in manufacturing and the things that they're creating, and I see a lot of innovation. But what you're talking about is even another level, because this is kind of like the area of software, because software has been known to have this agile approach to it. We can create new releases in different cadences, even to the point of every day release a new set of code, fixing problems. That's what you were doing in the manufacturing of physical products?
Yes.
Wow, that's impressive. When you think about this, because most of our conversation is not just about the technology you have, but it's about people. Are your people coming up with these innovations, or are you driving this across the company?
I'd say the majority of the credit has to go to people other than me. So we've got an amazing staff here at our company, but also the thing that has really allowed this to happen, I think, at a very fast pace, is we've tried to do our best in establishing a very tight connection with our customers as a community. So we've got communities on various social media platforms, as well as have tried to keep a very open line of communication with our customers so that they can get in touch not only with our company, but even directly with me to share their thoughts, their ideas, their feedback, and really identify those key areas of opportunities for us to improve. And since we have very tight control of our manufacturing, we can take that idea and we can implement it, we can test it out, and we can act on it quickly.
George just talked about innovations coming from others. And what he really means is everyone in the organization is contributing to our growth and our innovation across the company. And one of the concepts I've seen play really well with here is accepting that the best ideas should win. Now that I know that's pretty simple, but that doesn't always happen in business. Sometimes founders or sometimes authoritarian style leadership will say that their ideas have to win and everyone else is to follow and execute on those strategies and specifically ideas. Well, the reality is if you want a fast growth company, you want a place where people feel included and the best ideas win. Think about that. No longer are you on the hook for figuring out how to overcome things and how to navigate through certain phases of business. You want them being proactive because otherwise you're going to be absolutely exhausted. And the end result of an organization where the best ideas don't win is those talented people end up moving to a place where they can share their ideas and get them out into the world. Now back to George. George, what do we see across your organization from a cadence of meetings or the way you guys interact with each other that show this kind of innovation is really a dominant force?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean in that regard.
I'm just kind of curious because there's a lot of stuff going on to make this work. Are you guys meeting daily to be able to make these kind of changes this quickly? Do you have other cadence?
Yeah, certain departments for sure. But I'd say the general cadence for at this point for where we're at, a much larger company than when we began, about once a week to go over our existing product line as well as our opportunities for improvement, and just identifying again what those key areas are and really emphasizing with our leaders in the company that, hey, we're always looking for opportunities to improve things. If you've got ideas, please, we want to hear them.
Do you have a principle of leadership that guides the company through the stages that you guys have been in?
Well, one of the things that we've tried hard to do is to get not just our leaders and our managers, but all of our staff. I mean, right down to the people that were just hired, a few weeks ago, to be thinking innovation, right? And just a quick little side to kind of convey how and why. Like many other development companies, we've leveraged additive manufacturing for prototyping and iteration. You know what I'm talking about, a 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to have 3D printer classes that are open to every single person in the company. And so everyone that wants to learn more about it can attend one of these classes at no cost and can utilize one of the many printers that we have available, not only here at work, but you can even sign it out like you'd borrow a book from the library, take it home and get to know it, share it with their kids and their family at home and learn that technology. And we find that when we empower these people to learn new skills, all of a sudden, it seems like not all of them, but in many of them, the light bulb turns on and the ideas start to become a bit more forthcoming. Those ideas from the staff are extremely valuable because they're in the trenches. They're doing it every day. We need to pay attention to what they have to say.
I've said this for a long time, founders are usually on the front lines until the point where they're so busy and tied up with other things that we have to be able to tap into the people that are in the trenches. And that's exactly what you're talking about here today, George. When you think about, how you guide the company and how you empower them, is there anything that you've learned, maybe the hard way or the mistakes that you've made that you could share with us?
Well, the challenge is to not fall into the trap of micromanaging because I don't care how smart you are or how many hours a day you're willing to work. There comes a point where, a person in a leadership position simply is not capable of doing all the things that the company needs, at least not well. At the same time, it's also important to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. Yes, we need to empower our people to do the things they need to do. We also need to give them enough latitude that they can make some mistakes. Even the ones that you might see coming, we got to make sure that we mitigate them as much as possible. But making mistakes is, I think, one of the most important things that a person can learn how to do correctly. Because when I think about my own history, for example, I know that some of the most memorable moments that I've had along my journey come as a result of something that I could have done better. And that self-analysis and, oh boy, Now I'll have to remember that for next time.
Now, George just talked about don't fall into the trap of micromanagement. Now, a lot of leaders think that they're not micromanaging, but the reality is they are in a sense, because they're telling people not just what to do and the goals behind this or the vision forward, but they're actually sharing how to do things. Now, if you share how to do things in the early stage of a business, it makes total sense. If you share them how to do them in the early stages of an employee new hire, makes total sense. But if you are continuously doing this after someone's been there for 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, you're telling them how, then you're really missing an opportunity, because that's really crossing the lines of micromanagement. Now, think about that for yourself. Every time you have a challenge in front of you or someone comes up with a problem, your issue is not to fix the problem. I've made this mistake before, honestly. And I just want to put a spotlight on this. Your idea and your real focus is to have a conversation that gets them to accept that the fixing of this is their problem. It's their level of ownership around this, and that they're willing to figure out how to do it and come back with you to help you refine that, not for you to do it for them. That is a little bit of insight that I wanted to share with you in this context. Now back to George. We're here talking about the mindset of improvement, and you just said something that's really interesting on mistakes. And I want to dive a little deeper in that. Making mistakes is something that we need to learn to do correctly.
Yes.
How do you inspire others to make mistakes correctly?
Okay. Well, the first thing is, let's acknowledge that no matter how hard we try to not make mistakes, it's going to happen anyway. So I'm not saying we shouldn't try not to make mistakes. We want to avoid them because they cause challenges. However, when the challenges inevitably arise, we need to embrace them. We need to own them. And the best thing we can do is communicate them to other people that we're working with so that they can understand the mistakes that we've just made. And now we can empower them with the knowledge that we've gained from making that mistake and from dealing with, we'll just call it the discomfort of having done something that could have been done better.
I think that's something you hit on there that a lot of new leaders don't really get. We have a leadership development programs. We're having conversations all the time. They're either trying to avoid mistakes, which is just impossible, but they also don't communicate it very well. If they make a mistake, they don't really want to fess up to it. They don't want to share it with others, but that can be really dangerous. And that's when things get much bigger than they would if they actually did communicate with their team members. I'm guessing you're seeing that across your company?
Oh, definitely. And, I don't want to come across in the wrong way. I've certainly evolved quite a bit over time, as I think all of us do. I've learned some of these things the hard way by not, owning some of my mistakes. I try really hard to do so now, and to try and provide an example for the other people around me that, hey, these things are going to happen. We don't want to do them without thinking, but we also need to embrace that moment when it occurs, because they're some of the most valuable experiences that we're going to have, not just as a person, but as a company. The mistakes help us see where the improvement opportunity is.
Very well said. George, we've been talking about this mindset of improvement. Do you get into the whole mindset before you were a business owner, or is this something that you discovered as driving this company to growth?
That it's a fun question. And I look at myself as, I don't know if it was instinct or if it came about by, I struggle to find something that's satisfying. So I've always been looking for ways to improve just about anything that I'm engaged with, because when I'm able to find a way to improve it or find a way to make it better, that's where I get that little, we'll call it little hit of dopamine. It's like, yeah, found a better way. So it is an ongoing thing that every day I'm constantly on the look for a way to make something better.
We have a value here in our company, and it really is about making things better. Do you guys prescribe to having company core values that you talk about on a daily basis?
Probably not on a daily basis, but we do our best to communicate with all of our staff that we are looking for opportunities for improvement. In fact, we've even put some programs in place that reward people monetarily for bringing ideas forward that improve our process and result in savings or efficiencies in the company. Because again, it's those people in the trenches that are doing those things every day, those same things, that understand the nuance of whatever that task might be. Their perspective is some of the most valuable perspective that can be had by the company.
I want to wrap up with just giving you a chance to talk about, the whole episode is around the mindset of innovation and mindset of improvement. Is there anything that you feel like we've left out that you feel is important to bring to light right now?
Not really. I think the biggest thing is improvements come, I think, on the heels of, we'll call it the missteps, the mistakes, I didn't think that was going to happen. So we have to, I think, as leaders and as innovators, we have to be willing to take that risk, to try something that hasn't been tried before, to get mud on our face, to make the mistakes, own the mistakes, learn from them, and evolve.
Well said. Good place to end today's conversation, George. Thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, Gene. Really appreciate your time.
Wow, what a great interview. I love the energy behind this. The mindset of improvement and innovation was the core of today's conversation. And you probably think about this. How do you get your employees to buy in to innovation? How do you get them to buy in to whatever is going on, and so that you can have their heart and soul? Well, all of that was included in today's message. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in today. If there's anything I could do for you to help you map out the strategy for growth of your company, or maybe it's the strategy of growth for your people, or maybe it's even you as the founder. Well, how do you evolve from where you are right now to that next level? Just go to genehammett.com and schedule a call. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, live with courage. We'll see you next time.